Okay, so this is a continuation of the previous video. The topic is international marketing, and we're still using this article from economicsdiscussion.net. Okay, so we're now on the process of penetrating the international market. So the second step after the design is implementation. Okay, the design strategy is to put into practice the operationalization of all variables involved in the strategy. So you have your commercial mix and the marketing channels. So those are pursued in order to comply with the objectives. The strategic implementation will be developed according to international market information collected throughout the design stage and will be applied to all the selected external markets. Okay. It is an operative or active stage in which the company assigns material resources, human, monetary, and productive resources for the actual completion and development of the different goals set in the previous stage. Okay. The entrepreneur transforms what has been planned, stipulated, and projected in the marketing strategy into real, tangible activities. Okay. An example of the activities at this stage could be if an internationally marketized product has been designed with a particular packaging to be manufactured by the company, suppliers who may offer material of the desired quality for that packaging will be required. Meetings between visual designers and the manufacturers will be held pursuant to the set design stage stipulations. So then once manufactured, durability and functionality tests will be carried out on the prototype. Step 3 is control and adjustment. Fundamental stage in international activities. We have to make sure that the product is of good quality because feedback from the implementation stage actions is necessary. So what do? Degree of completion with objectives, correct international marketing channel functioning and structuration, consistency and adequation of each of the marketing mix variables. So from this analysis, it may turn out that all objectives fixed in the first stage of the strategical design may have been totally met. And this will allow the entrepreneur to establish higher objectives for the next period according to the experience gained through internationalization activities. Okay. Of course, your first try would be the main experience. You would learn a lot through the first experience. The fixed goals may not have been satisfied or they may have been met partially, which leads to two subsequent analysis. So if what happens is that the objectives were not met, so this is what they should do. Evaluate whether operative activities have been correctly carried out. So there might be, something wrong with the implementation or execution process. Consider whether the chosen objectives are too ambitious for this stage. If it's just at the initial stage, you have to make sure that the objectives are realistic and not overly ambitious. In this case, the entrepreneur will have to consider the creation of more realistic and easier to achieve goals. Okay. As to the marketing channel and international commercial mix, necessary adjustments may be detected at this stage. This redesign may appear as a consequence of new information accessed during the implementation stage. So, even during the implementation process or the execution stage, it's possible that they would still, come up with new information that might affect their implementation process. Okay. For example, consumers' reaction to the product, competitors' reaction, etc. Okay, which was not available to the company during the strategic design stage. Okay. The competition, could easily adapt and offer better for the consumers, in which case the initial reaction of the consumers coming to them to, buy the products or service could return to the competitors. Usually, the enterprise gets information about its international activities constantly in each stage, and this information provides various adjustments to the design strategy. With this in mind, marketing strategy main quality must be flexible in order to produce the different modifications according to the entrepreneur's results in the external market operation. Okay. Next, we have distribution channels with types and relation to promotion. So export management, export transfer out. After making product planning decisions, must plan the export channels of distribution. An export channel of distribution is the main chain of marketing agencies linking the producer with the final buyers in the market. So again, this is another reason why prices go up, because of, the middleman from the producer to the buyer, the distribution channel. So it's important to find a distribution agency or distribution company that would provide the quality service at lower prices as well. Distribution channels negotiate sales transactions, and they direct the physical movement and storage of the product in order to place the product in the hands of the final buyers, where, when, and in the quantities they want. Okay? The agencies comprising a given channel of distribution may be agencies owned by the producer or independent middlemen, and they may be many or few in number. So, yeah, that would depend if the company has its own or if they contract other companies for that. The type of distribution channels used will depend on many factors, including availability, type of product, desired degree of penetration into the foreign market, and the evolutionary level of retail trading in that particular country. So again, it's not only the distribution channel that would affect the penetration, but, other factors would have their own roles. The ability of an exporter to attain reasonably full and efficient distribution of his product is almost directly proportional to the degree of development of modern retailing methods in the foreign markets. Basic problem is adjusting to foreign distribution methods. Training efficiencies in foreign countries have not reached the levels found in the United States, and many foreign countries are years behind our present structure of product distribution. Further, no two countries are alike in terms of development of distribution channels. Even in Western Europe, differing rates of growth are noticeable, with the stores of the UK and France still ranking behind German and Swiss stores in average size and turnover. Italy's growth has been slow, and Spain is just beginning to develop efficient distribution channels. Okay, this is what I've mentioned before. I find it what do you call that? Not really surprised, but I'm questioning, the rationality why shipping costs from other countries to here in the Philippines is lower compared to the cost of transporting a product within a within a place in the Philippines to where I am. Okay? So it's probably because they have more efficient logistics operations or distribution channels compared to what we have here in the Philippines. But I guess it's also understandable that Philippines is composed of, different islands, so that could be it. But still, from another country to the Philippines, that should pose more problems, right? More challenges, so should be more costly, but it is not. So why? That's the question. Okay. Types of distribution channels called for in marketing different types of products in foreign markets. Product distributors are independent merchant dealers, export houses, commission or commercial agents, or wholly owned subsidiaries and branches. In foreign markets, channels of distribution range from direct sale through single or multiple distributors or wholesalers. So sometimes you can get transport companies would have exclusive distribution rights, but others could be non-exclusive, in which case they could get the services of other distribution channels or distribution companies as well. It could be, some manufacturers would like their products to be bought by wholesalers, and then they would leave it to the wholesalers to sell it to retailers. Okay, but it could also be a combination of wholesale and retail. Okay. Larger companies exporting several product lines may use their foreign distribution subsidiaries or affiliates, while smaller companies generally set up one distributor for numerous retailers. Some companies which have limited capital may work through export houses which buy a firm's products outright and then distribute them through their own channels. Okay. Alright, we have physical distribution. physical movement of the exporter's product, and when necessary, its storage at appropriate places. Does not involve transportation alone. Considerations: how much of the product do they buy at one time, how often, and then what services will they need. Okay, so there's an illustration here. You could read that. Service. Another aspect of retailing evolution is the provision of service. May tracking ba yan, may after sales, ganyan, may return, okay. The innovation of supermarkets before. The grocer dealt personally with his customers, packaging many of the items sold. Since the self-service supermarket first appeared, self-service has become a widespread acceptable form of service in most developed nations. Okay. Class structure. Management should be aware of the stratification of retail outlets overseas, a factor related to the stronger class structure that exists in most foreign countries. For management, the basic significance of the class concept in foreign markets points out that product markets and consumer shopping habits and preferences should be researched and analyzed. Okay, it's not the same. You have your one country, right? But in different areas, the behavior could be different as well. It's different in the cities, different in the province, right? During the market survey, the exporter must exercise care in gathering material that will help him understand the nature of the channel structure in the foreign market he is investigating. Okay. I'm gonna skip some parts of these. Controlling channel performance. So you have to check as well, monitor and then assess whether the channel is performing properly, or if there are complaints being received through the particular channel, or if improvements could be done to make the process more efficient. Okay. Distribution channels in relation to promotion. Distribution channels perform an important promotion function for a manufacturer, but few generalizations can be made with respect to overseas markets. Examples: degree of competition in a buyer's market, for instance, impersonal promotional activities, particularly with respect to products of oligopolistic industries, are of considerable importance. In less developed economies, the role of impersonal promotion is reduced, with personal selling playing a critical role in the promotion function. Okay? Also, cultural attitudes toward promotion differ considerably in foreign markets. In many countries, both the people and the government have a negative attitude toward advertising, which may limit its effectiveness and therefore its use by channels. Okay, probably some cultures or some countries would have a negative attitude towards advertising, but in others, it could be effective, right? So have to check whether they are being received well in the particular country or not. And of course, there are certain industries that are not allowed to do advertising. Accounting services, you don't see, TV or radio ads for it. And then pharmacies, manufacturers of medicines, you also don't see ads for that. Hospitals, medical care, you don't, right? Okay, I'm gonna skip these parts and then move on. Major decisions involved in international marketing. Looking at the global marketing environment, deciding whether to go abroad, and a few others. Okay. Looking at the global marketing environment, a company looking abroad must start by understanding the international trade system, of course. You can't go in blind, alright? The economic factors reflect the country's attractiveness as a market, industrial structure, and income distribution. Essentially your, social structure. Types of industrial structure: subsistence economies. Agricultural economies consume most of what they produce and barter the rest for simple goods and services, offer few market opportunities. Raw material exporting economies. These economies are rich in one or more natural resources, but poor in other ways. Industrializing economies. So these are the different types of economies, that a particular country could possibly be in. Okay. Industrializing, manufacturing accounts for 10 to 20% of the economy, needs more raw material imports, but less of foreign goods give rise to new rich and middle class who need more imported goods. Okay? Industrial economies, major exporters of manufactured goods and invest funds. Income distribution, countries with subsistence economies may have little surplus income. So in that case, they don't have the money to spend, lesser demand mostly for products. Hence, reduced buying capability. Industrial economies have much more surplus funds to spend. Political, legal environment considered in deciding whether to do business in a given country. So attitude towards international buying. There are some nations who are, resistant to imports. They prefer to, buy from their local producers. Very supportive of their local economy. Okay? But of course, not all countries are like that. Some countries are more prone to buying imported products, things like that. Government bureaucracy, the extent to which the host government runs an efficient system for helping foreign companies. Okay. Some companies, they would have very strict rules for, foreign investments, and so it could, dissuade them from continuing, but other countries are very welcoming, especially the smaller countries that are trying to attract, businessmen, investors, companies. So they have more lenient or much easier requirements, right? Political stability, changing governments may mean change in policies. Monetary regulations, sellers want to take their profits in a currency of value to them. So, convertibility normally into USD. Cultural environment, each country has its own folkways, norms, and taboos. The seller must examine the ways consumers in different countries think about and use certain products before planning a marketing program. Besides, norms and behavior also vary from country to country. Deciding whether to go abroad, so we have the following problems in global marketing. Learning new laws, it would take time, right? And sometimes you could interpret the laws incorrectly. That could pose serious problems. Learning new language, dealing with volatile currencies, facing political and legal uncertainties, redesigning the products to suit different consumer needs and expectations. Okay. Certain countries, they have, they're used to certain colors or they're used to certain designs. So you might have to do redesigns in your products and the packaging and whatnot. Okay. Factors that attract companies to go international: counterattack on global firms in their home market to counter their attack in our market. Okay. So if you have, foreign markets coming in the Philippines, so you'd like to counter that. So they come here, then we go there, right? Higher profit opportunities are available in some countries, especially if there is a great demand in their market. Okay, to get a larger customer base to achieve economies of scale, to reduce its dependency on one market, if companies' customers are going abroad and require international servicing. Risk in going abroad: failure to understand the preferences of foreign customers, failure to offer a competitively attractive product, failure to understand the foreign country's business culture, or know how to deal effectively with foreign nationals. Company might underestimate foreign regulations and incur unexpected costs. Lack of managers with international experience. Foreign country might change its laws, or they may be a political change. Challenges: huge foreign indebtedness could result. Unstable government, foreign exchange problems, foreign government entry requirements and bureaucracy, tariffs and other trade barriers, corruption, technological pirating for digital products, high cost of production and communication adaptation. Deciding which market to enter, so decisions that must be taken are: what proportion of foreign to total sales will it be? Okay. Whether to market in a few countries or many countries, how fast to expand, types of countries to enter. Generally speaking, it makes sense to operate in fewer countries with a deeper commitment and penetration in each. Much easier as well if it has a lot of similarities with the local market. Okay? Companies should enter fewer countries when market entry and market control costs are high, product and communication adaptation costs are high, population and income size and growth are high in the initial countries chosen. Dominant foreign firms can establish high barriers to entry. Deciding how to enter the market, modes of entry, indirect export, direct export, licensing, joint ventures, you partner with the local businesses. Direct investment, you simply put your money into a local business. Contract manufacturing, again, some sort of partnership as well. Management contracting, joint ownerships. Indirect export, occasional exporting is a passive level of involvement in which the company exports from time to time, either on its own initiative or as a response to unsolicited orders from abroad. Okay, direct export, companies handle their own export, can carry on direct exporting in several ways: domestic-based export department or division, overseas sales branch or subsidiary, traveling export sales representatives, foreign-based distributors or agents. Okay. Licensing is a method of entering a foreign market in which the company enters into an agreement with a licensee in the foreign market, offering the right to use a marketing process, trademark, patent, trade secret, or other item of value for a fee or royalty. Some sort of franchising, it's similar to that. Joint venture, entering foreign markets by joining with foreign companies to produce or market a product or service. Direct investment, developing foreign-based assembly or manufacturing facilities. Contract manufacturing, company enters into contracts with manufacturers in a foreign country to produce the product. Management contracting, domestic firm supplies the market know-how to a foreign company that supplies the capital. The domestic firm exports management services rather than products. Joint ownership, company joins investors in a foreign market to create local business, in which the company shares joint ownership and control. Okay. Then we also have deciding on a global marketing program. Companies that operate in one or more foreign markets must decide how much, if at all, to adapt their marketing mixes to local conditions. Okay, so you have your standardized marketing mix. Other extremes, adapted marketing mix, adjusting the marketing mix elements to each international target market, bearing more cost but hoping for larger market share and return. Okay, so you have this graph. Don't change promotion, straight extension, don't change the product. Don't change promotion but adapt product adaptation. Adapt promotion, direct, don't change the product, communication adaptation. Simply communicate the features and functions of the product well. Excuse me. Adapt promotion and adapt product, dual acceptance, that there needs to be change in that. Develop new product invention. Okay. International product and promotion strategies, straight extension, marketing a product in a foreign market without any change. Communication adaptation, a global communication strategy of fully adapting advertising messages to local markets. Okay, so your product, but the marketing strategy is what's working in that particular market. Product adaptation, adapting a product to meet local conditions or wants in foreign markets. So you check first if the consumers would want a particular product. Okay, or you try to learn what they want and then you produce it. Dual acceptance, adapting the existing product and also the promotion strategies to meet the requirements of the specific foreign market. Such adaptations will differ from market to market. Okay. Then we have product invention, creating new products or services for foreign markets. Alright, and then we have price, have to set international prices. Foreign prices will mostly be higher than the domestic prices due to addition of tariffs, importer margin, wholesaler margin, and retailer margin to its factory price. Usually, okay, but that's not always the case. Distribution channels, international company must take a whole channel view of the problem of distributing products to final customers. Whole channel view, take into account all the necessary links in distributing the seller's product to final buyers, including the seller's headquarters organization, channels among nations, and channels within nations. Deciding on a global marketing organization, companies manage their international marketing activities in at least 3 different ways. organize an export department, create an international division, and then finally become a global organization. Okay, I think this is the last one. Trade barriers or restrictions. So it could be given by the host government, home government trade restriction, or formal and informal restriction. Okay. National boundaries, single and most important element that separates domestic trade from international trade. No country applies the same degree of restrictions within its domestic boundaries. Some are lenient, some are strict. Each nation's approach to their domestic and foreign markets is dictated by its needs and requirements. Sometimes pride could take a role, but the following are some trade barriers faced by business firms while operating its business activities internationally. So host government can impose various trade barriers in the way of export business. Of course, they need to protect their local producers, right? So sometimes they would impose trade barriers, normally for products that they are also producing locally, okay? But normally for products that they don't have and then other countries could offer, the requirements are normally easy to comply with. Okay, there's not much barrier in that case. So again, it would depend on their need. Okay, following barriers can be imposed by the host government. Import tariffs. This is a form of taxation or fees that the incoming company or business would have to pay. Import licensing, function to be performed by the government. Normally imports, they do have limits. So let's say importation could only account to 40% of the supply in a particular country, and then the remaining 60% is reserved for local producers. So, things like that. So they need to monitor that. So they have the import licensing. They have, maximum amount that they can import, or this particular company could provide to that particular market, international market. Environmental control, so it needs to protect its boundaries from environmental factors. Some restrictions can be imposed on foreign exporter before granting them license to trade in their country. Okay. Restrictions on product contents, pollution control, what do you call that? Packaging in the form of biodegradable materials, okay, or how much plastic content it does, or other content that could, affect the environment. Technology transfer, put conditions on the transfer of technology if certain product is being sold by the exporters within their boundaries. Levied mostly by the developing nation as they equip themselves with the latest and new technology with having least expenditure to have it. And then you have your quota. Non-tariff barrier imposed by the host government as to restrict quantities of imports to their country. Anti-dumping laws confined to present foreign exporters to sell their products at very low prices. Okay. The aim of such business firm is to drive out the local manufacturer or other foreign exporters from the market. Okay, so they have legislations to prevent this from happening. Home government trade restrictions. Okay, so you have issues related to national security, may restrict entry to trade in those sectors which are considered to be reserved from national security point of view. Okay. Nuclear materials, strategic minerals, defense strategic materials, okay. Utilities, communications, sometimes those are exclusive for local companies. They don't allow foreigners to handle those industries. Export tariffs, primarily considered to be a source of revenue for the government, means of promoting certain trades or to discourage certain industries. Okay, some sort of additional charges. Anti-rerouting measures, sometime when the export restrictions like quotas are strictly applicable, the exporters try to change the country of origin to some comfortable areas. The exporters reroute their product by these tactics. So to prevent that, some countries impose anti-rerouting measures. Okay. So instead of showing made in the Philippines, let's say they produce it or they reroute it through some other country, and then of course things like that. Formal and informal restrictions. The governments control the marketing decisions of their domestic products as well as that of foreign companies. As far as informal barriers are concerned, they are more difficult to detect and in many cases harder to overcome than their more official counterparts. Okay. Some of the informal restrictions, religion and cultural, could play a role in international business. Emotional impact, factual presentation will do only very little to get your product on the right track. So, for example, for countries wherein the religion prohibits the consumption of certain products like pork, so you cannot, for a product that contains pork, then it would not do well in that case. Social restrictions, do not accept product in their society. It may be because of their or other societal restrictions. Sometimes the industries are not bound to promote their product in the foreign market because of societal constraints. Okay. Environmental, any ill effect of the product being produced by the business firms, they can expect a big market resistance. Such ill effects are including water pollution, global warming, environmental pollution. Such effects are brought in the light, the business firm will be in big trouble. Okay, penalized, fined, or, tawag dito, yung papasara. Okay, shut down. Educational. Many sections of the world are still illiterate. Big informal barrier is the educational level of the large sections of the target market population. So you can't educate them if they are, illiterate. So you have to start from scratch. Therefore, training should be a part of the marketing plan when educational level is the key for the acceptance of the product. Trading blocks. Okay, they have these blocks restrain foreign traders from assailing the weaker members by protecting them with strength. Those who join such trading blocks have recognized the interdependence of trade among their immediate neighbors and use blocks to prevent outside marketers from regional free flow. So trading blocks work as to control and sometimes eliminate trade in certain products or sectors. So examples, you have your AFTA, ASEAN Free Trade Association. Essentially, these are, countries coming to an agreement to do trade or free trade, right? So you have ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, EU, European Union, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, OPEC, an Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Okay, and then you have your World Trade Organization and other international interventions. Okay. Every country cannot be a member of World Trade Organizations. There are certain guidelines and conditions which must be satisfied prior to the membership. Okay, so parang merong conditions pa, right? Main objective of the organization is the eventual removal of all import or import tariffs among member countries. Must comply with generally accepted accountancy principles in the preparation of their, financial statements, financial reports. Helpful to compare their books with other members and their companies. Okay, present scenario. Oh, I thought we're done already. Bilateral trade agreement and multilateral trade agreement. So free trade at the global level is the ideal situation, beneficial to all countries. However, various types of restrictions are imposed on international trade by all countries developed and developing. Because, let's face it, countries would have to protect their local producers and would have to support their local manufacturers, more local sellers as well. The GATT, now World Trade Organization and other international organizations, have failed to introduce new international economic order under which international trade will be free and fair to all participants, because it's really difficult to do. Regional trade blocks, I think it's much easier to just let the law of supply and demand to, work in the market. Regional trade blocks, okay, we have those in existence. In spite of trade restrictions, trade blocks, and other obstacles, world trade is growing. World merchandise trade volume rose by 8% in 1995, and value of goods and services over 6,000 billion. Wait, how much is that? For the first time as per the report of World Trade Organization. Because of, online trading, online selling, that also contributed a lot in the growth of international trade as well. Rich and developed countries dominate present international marketing scene, put pressure on less developed countries to accept certain decisions which are not favorable but actually harmful to less developed countries. Okay. What do you call that? Carbon emission. There are certain restrictions, but if you notice, the bigger players, they don't have much restrictions. The US is the world's leading single goods exporter and also the top importer, followed by members of the European Union. International marketing rapidly becoming global marketing. Countries of the world are coming closer under global village. This tendency will lead to integration of economies of different countries. As a result, rapid expansion will take place in the field of export marketing. Efforts are urgently required for the creation of new international economic order. Difficult. Dominion of MNCs on export marketing is fast increasing. The setting up of the World Trade Organization would see a major shift in the style of the world trade, ushering in a new era in which countries would be bound by common rules. And then you have your bilateral trade agreement, or agreement between two countries, mutual trade and commercial benefits. That's what we call bilateral. And then you have your multilateral trade agreement. More than two countries enter into an agreement for the common benefit. Normally, free trade between them. Maximization of world welfare, uniform trading pattern, and reduction in the duty so as to benefit more to the developing countries and related matters are the objectives of multilateral trade agreements. Also entered into to ease but the customs and non-tariff barriers which made free trade difficult. Okay. Advancement in technology and transport have facilitated international trade. Restrictions once imposed by governments upon imports and exports have been relaxed as a result of multilateral trade agreements. Two important multilateral trading agreements are GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades, and then you have your United National Conference on Trade and Development. Okay, we're finally done with this. So we've discussed, international marketing, have the scope, characteristics, the process, and the current, the barriers to entry, and then we have the current situation. Alright, so that's it for this one. This is the second part of international marketing discussion. Okay, so that's it for this one. Thanks and bye.